All right, it's happening. School. It's that school season, right? My favorite thing is going to Target and seeing the frenzy of school supply shopping. I had a woman come up to me and she's like, they're out of college ruled paper. And I'm like, you haven't even made it to this section. So I sent her. I'm like, I love school shopping. I actually got to take my little brother school shopping. He's 10 years younger than I am. So when he would come home with that list, my mom would say, Nikki, go to it. And we would go and descend on Office Depot or Staples and pick up all the things. It was one of my favorite things to do. That always signals for me that school is upon us. And even though I'm not going back to school and some of you aren't going back to school, it definitely represents a shift in the time of year. Summer is coming to a close, and for Californians, that means we might wear light jackets coming up soon, right? So as we move into this time, I start to see other signs that things are changing. When I was a kid, we got to go first day of school shopping. We don't get to do that as adults as much, but I would go with my grandparents and my mom and pick out a special outfit. They wanted us to feel prepared and confident for the first day of school. And now on my Facebook, I've started to see all those first day of school pictures, but they're so much fancier than I remember because everyone's got like a little chalkboard that has facts about them and what grade they're going into and what their teacher's name is. And my friends Alicia and Justin actually just sent their 3 off to school this week. And one of them is going to school for the very first time. So they have a 3rd grader, a 1st grader, and then their preschooler headed off. And not only did I get to see a picture with their little chalkboard sign, but they included prayers and wishes for their kids as they went to school. Right? Like little tearjerker moments as I'm scrolling through Facebook. And the prayers included things like this. God made you awesome. I pray you always see things in a way that makes people question. I pray you question everything so you can always know your truth in your heart. And this, may you always be watching for the child who needs a friend, who needs your kindness and helpful spirit. I pray you beam with God's love to everyone that crosses your path this year. And I pray you go stronger, wiser, let your passion come through and direct it for good. I realized that my friends aren't just raising good students that know how to read and write and do math and science and history, but rather they're raising humans, like little people who are going to rule the world someday. And so they're trying to train them to be includers, to be people who look out for other people's needs, to be people that think about how to make the world a better place. So this morning I thought we could stand as the children of God gathered here for a little school pep talk. We're going to watch a video. The video is by Kid President. How many of you have ever heard of Kid President? I am obsessed. So Kid President, actually at the time that the videos came out, was about 10 years old. His name is Bobby Novak. He worked with his brother-in-law Brad to put out these videos on YouTube, and they went viral. They're inspirational videos that are made by a kid telling us how to make the world awesome. So this morning we hear a pep talk for teachers and students, and as you'll hear in the actual video, we all get to be teachers and students in our own way. So Marilee, take us away. That was a really good video. I'm enjoying that. It's thinking about it. So while we're thinking about it, let me tell you about the video. This video is a pep talk for students, recognizing that we all have the opportunity to learn and to grow, and that everyone is a student and everyone is a teacher. So whether that we know it or not, we're teaching the world something. So we have to think about those things. it also tells us that when we show up, that things happen, that we're a part of history, and we get to contribute in some sort of way. So, Marilee will work on it for next service. It'll be fine. Pause. Okay, so one of the things that Bobby ends at the very end, he says, together we're louder. That together we can do amazing things, and because we work together, we can create a message that transcends all the other messages that are going on around us. So by doing that, we contribute to making the world a better place. We all have the opportunity to be a student and to learn, and this morning we hear a story about Jesus becoming a little bit more of a learner than we're accustomed to seeing Jesus do. We're making our way through the book of Matthew and describing Jesus' ministry as he starts to come up against a little bit more opposition. And we're actually going consecutively through the book of Matthew. So Deacon Lynn talked about the feeding of the 5,000, and then last week we talked about Jesus walking on water, and this week we are headed into a story called the Canaanite woman's faith. A woman, one of the others, approaches Jesus along his way and cries out for Jesus' help, but not before recognizing Jesus as Lord, as someone capable of doing miraculous things. And what does Jesus do? Nothing. She is met with silence.
Don't tell me no. I have seen you feed the thousands, seen miracles spill from your hands like water, like wine, seen you with circles and circles of crowds pressed around you, and not one soul turned away. Don't start with me.
The disciples then approach Jesus and tell him that they should send her away. She's shouting, she's causing quite a nuisance for everyone. She needs to go, yet she goes on. Why do they see her as such a nuisance? Can't they see that her earnestness comes from a place of protection, wanting to look out for her daughter and advocate for her? Is it because she's one of those other people, one of a different faith, not like them? Jesus says, I was sent for the lost sheep of Israel. In other words, not for you. Oh, this is that Gentile thing. You remember, Jesus came for the Israelites, but then now we're working on those other people. Jesus is focused on his people, but what about those others? And yet she continues, Lord, help me.
I am saying you can close the door, but I will keep knocking. You can go silent, but I will keep shouting. You can tighten the circle, but I will trace a bigger one around you, around the life of my child, who will tell you no one surpasses a mother for stubbornness.
And then Jesus says something that I wish he never said. I have a list going if you haven't followed that. It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. And we can talk about historical context and the words and the nuance of the metaphor, but the reality is this is the words we're reading in our translation this morning. It just left me with a feeling of, wow. Was Jesus feeling particularly feisty this day? Maybe feeling a little hangry, needed some quiet time? That he would liken her to a dog. But she doesn't respond with anger or violence or indignation like maybe I might have, but quick wit and unending persistence. Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table.
I am saying, I know what you can do with crumbs, and I am claiming mine. Every morsel and scrap you have up your sleeve, unclench your hand, your heart. Let the scraps fall like manna, like mercy for the life of my child, the life of the world. Don't you tell me no.
She points out that a need is a need, and that she's confident in Jesus' ability to serve and to heal and to feed all in God's name. That there's always enough at the master's table. We don't have to settle for crumbs. Because it's not that pie analogy that kind of breaks down for us. A pie that every piece that we extend to another person makes our slice smaller. No. God's love is bigger than that and bigger than any analogy we could ever come up with. Jesus' response, "Woman, great is your faith." Although it doesn't quite redeem the whole situation for me, at least it shows that Jesus was listening. He recognizes that this woman's persistence is out of a deeply human need. And because of her great faith, and more importantly, her understanding that Jesus came for more than these, her daughter is made well. We're called to open our eyes to the world around us. In this story, to be like Jesus, to be surprised and maybe taken aback, but to not get caught up so much in our own thing that we lose sight of the people right in front of us. We're to act with confidence that what we do in this world matters and to live accordingly. Some of you may have heard the phrase, "with great power comes great responsibility." Most people think it's from Spider-Man, but it's actually been used prior to then, but it's made kind of popular with Spider-Man. So with great power comes great responsibility. But this morning we hear, with great faith comes great responsibility. No matter who we are, someone is learning from us, and everybody gets to be a teacher and a student. So you have the ability this morning to decide, what are you going to teach? What are you already teaching, and what do you set out to teach to the world? As people of faith, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to teach what it means to be the people of God. And the Canaanite woman this morning in our story reminds us that we're called to be advocates. Advocates for ourselves, but more importantly, for one another. To clamor at the top of our lungs, even if it drives people just buggy. To proclaim truth in all circumstances, even if it's difficult. To be persistent to the point that we're exhausted, and to speak out for those without a voice. Let us pray.